This is Teacher's Corner from Stenhouse Publishers. I'm Nate Butler. How are you holding up? We're trying to balance the needs of our families with the duties of our work without losing ourselves in the face of uncertainty. It's tough. But it's not without hope as we see people communicating and collaborating so creatively to solve problems. We will get through this together. In this episode of Teacher's Corner, we talk with educator, author, and parent Whitney La Rocca about how she is adjusting to remote learning, to social distancing, and homeschooling, all while trying to stay positive and connected, but also giving herself permission to lament her pre-COVID routine. Here she is talking to Faye LaCasse, Vice President of Marketing at Stenhouse.
Let's talk about just how you're adjusting. How's your family adjusting to the fact that you're one of those people that's always out and about, talking to teachers, working with teachers, and now you're not. You're at home. How are you adjusting?
Yeah. So this is week 2, and then we had spring break prior to that. So we're really going on 3 weeks right now without seeing our friends, and it's hard. It's really hard. I just, because I work from home, for me, the adjustment for that part is not difficult. But the fact that I can't just go into schools and see people and talk with kids all the time has been difficult. And then, of course, having my daughter and my 2 neighbor children here, I think the most important thing for them, in my opinion, is just setting routines. They just need to have some kind of normalcy. And so I can't say that I'm like truly teaching them. I'm working with them a little bit here and there, but it's more just routines and keeping it engaging. So we have a choice board that we plan out each day. And they're just in 15 or 30-minute increments. That way we just at least have a routine of something that we can do. And then during those times, I'm able to get something done, whether I do some reading or some working, because I am also working on a book in the meantime. So that for me has been an adjustment to just having kids here at home. And I think all parents that are trying to work from home are that's probably their biggest adjustment, is trying to continue with their work that they need to do, but also making sure the kids are doing something, whether, every district is in a different place right now. So some have school where their kids are actually teaching them something. Ours are not there yet. They will be, I think they're starting next week, but right now they're just getting used to their new platforms and teaching the kids how to use Zoom and how to use these different platforms that our district is using. So I think it's really hard on the parents too. And then the teachers as well, because they are also at home with their own kids. And so we're all in this together. I think that's one saving grace, is that we are all in it together. We're all dealing with it. So I think we are more understanding of one another because of it. It's difficult. Now, my husband is considered an essential worker at the moment, so he is not home. So actually that has been, I don't want to say nice, but it is kind of like, at least there's some kind of normalcy there. He still goes away during the day. And I think when both parents are at home and the kids, I think it can be even more difficult just because everyone's trying to do something. But it is a lot noisier here. I will say my house is not quiet. So it is difficult to work when it's not quiet. But I'm adjusting. I am very happy that we have the technology we have, so we can actually make face-to-face contact with people virtually, through FaceTime and through Zoom. I know that my daughter's teacher FaceTimed her the other night, and she hadn't talked to her since before spring break. And honestly, she was close to a meltdown. And so the teacher FaceTimed with her, and it changed her entire demeanor. And she has been so happy since that, just that 2-minute FaceTime conversation that she had with her teacher. So I think that's one thing. The teachers haven't reached out to their kids yet. It's amazing how much these kids miss their teachers. It's just changed her completely since that. And now that she knows she gets to do Zoom with her teacher every day coming up, she's really excited about that.
I saw this great little mini video on Facebook the other day, and it was the teachers actually got in their cars and they drove around
Yes.
neighborhoods. Just
Yes, I saw that too. It's
they miss their
so
kids.
they do. The teachers miss their kids, the kids miss their teachers, and the kids miss each other. I know, we have spring break, so we have a time away from each other because by this time of year, it's like a family. So you start to get on each other's nerves in your classrooms, and like the kids, they all become like brothers and sisters, and they start to get on each other's nerves. But they really do miss each other when they're not together, and just like a family, it's the exact same thing. And so it's been really hard, and kids are used to being out and going out and playing and touching things and touching one another, and they just don't get to do that right now, and it's really hard on them.
So, Whitney, let me ask you about that concept of routines, because it
Mhm.
sounds like you're trying to incorporate a routine in your home, but the routine's going to change again because your district is
Absolutely.
going to start sending some curriculum materials, soon.
Right, right.
Um, do you feel like this is helping your daughter adapt to change, or do you think this is making it harder because she can't settle into a routine? I'm just wondering how the routine is
That's a
actually
great
affecting
question.
you.
So, well, if it were up to my daughter, she would spend the entire day on YouTube. Like she would be completely fine. She has this little corner between like her bed and her wall that she crawls into. She would be completely fine being there and not being bothered at all 24/7 being on YouTube. So for me, it's a way for me to still isolate her and keep her home, but get her off YouTube. So our routine starts at 9, and we basically do like school until 11:30. We have lunch at 11:30. At noon, we do the lunch doodles with Mo Willems. Love that part of our day. Every day at noon, and then at 12:30 they have what recess. So they go out, they ride their bikes, they throw a ball around. They're not allowed to play on the playground, which is hard because we have one right down the street from us, but they can't touch anything. So they go out for 30 minutes, and then we come back and we do school again until 3. So I think just having those set times, depending on what we do in between those times, could change, but at least having a set starting time, a set lunch time, those things are predictable. And I think even with when we do have curriculum sent to us or time with their teacher, I still think there'll be some kind of schedule, some kind of set routines. So if I were to give advice, I think just setting a start time and a finish time and a lunch time are the most important things, just so they know kind of how their day will run every day. And then what changes in between there, that can be adaptable, but I think it's just so important to have some kind of routine just to have that sense of normalcy and structure. Um, it's definitely not the quality of learning that happens at school. But today they went on a little nature walk and just did a little thing in their notebook of what they saw, what they noticed, what they wondered, and for 30 minutes, and just allowed them to get out. Um, but again, that was their science for the day. So it's very different, but there's still the routine.
Now, are you finding very much material online that other teachers are sharing as well? You mentioned the lunchtime doodles, which I love.
Yeah, I love. It's so overwhelming right now, honestly, how much is being shared online. I think it's awesome, but it is extremely overwhelming. And as an educator myself, I'm able to kind of pick and choose, and I have a plan. So I definitely have an advantage. Parents that are not educators, I think that they are extremely overwhelmed, and some have mentioned like they feel shamed because they're not doing true homeschool. And I said, you should never feel shamed. Like that is not the teachers will take care of them once they figure out what's going on. If you need them just to go out and play or just have playtime, it's okay. That's okay. Because honestly, the most important thing for our kids right now, in my opinion, is their social and emotional being. The academics will come, but we are all adjusting to this right now. And what we need is connections, and to know that we're okay. So I saw something on, I think it was Facebook last night that said, out of every, or maybe it was Twitter, but something, out of everything that the teachers are putting out there, how many of them are just asking their kids, are you okay? That just really struck me. I felt like, yeah, that's what our kids need right now. They need to be asked, are they okay? Because it's really hard, and it's getting harder the more that we're isolated.
So let's talk about how it is that you actually establish some kind of community, because I think it's hard for the kids,
Oh, it's so
but I think
hard.
it's hard for the parents and the teachers too.
Oh,
It's
it's hard for
a tough
everybody.
thing.
It's hard for everybody. And I think that's where teachers are getting like on the spot training. Some of them are self-training. Teachers are just, they're turning on a dime right now. And that's what teachers do. I hope that they are appreciated even more through all of this, because it's not easy for them. And they're used to their structures and routines as well. And now they have to try to figure out everything. A lot of them don't have materials at home. They weren't allowed to go back and get materials. Thankfully, in my district, they had a couple minutes to go in and grab what they needed. But it's really hard. And so when it comes to making that connection, I think they just have to find a way to build the community, whether it's handwritten letters, even, and I know that there are some districts and schools that are just making sure those kids are fed. That's the most important thing. And that is the most important thing. Again, are you okay? We need to make sure that they're okay. And so when we are making sure that they're being fed, if there's another way to connect with them as well, give them, a handwritten note, just something to let them know that we're thinking about them. And I had the kids do that last week earlier this week, I guess it was on their board for writing. They wrote their teacher or someone that worked at their school a note. And then we took pictures and emailed those to them. And they were so excited to do that. And that was just something super little that they could do to connect with their teachers on their side as well.
So Whitney, with all of this, I think everybody's learning to adapt to different ways of coping and different routines and different ways of staying connected. Are there things that we're doing now that you hope will actually carry over once all of the dust is settled?
I hope the connections do. I think that one thing that we are learning more than anything through here is that importance of connecting and building those relationships. And we say it over and over again as educators. We we begin every single year with the most important thing is to build those relationships. And I think now we're realizing how important that truly is, that we know kids will work for us if we have a relationship with them. But this is even more important, to know that they have someone that cares about them. They need that now. And I think that is something that will carry over, is that importance of making connections and letting kids know that we care. And letting parents know. Parents need help too. I'll be honest. The parents need to know it will be okay. Some parents are going way to one extreme where they think they need to teach their kids everything and prepare them and prepare them for all these tests and everything. Thank goodness we don't have the test this year. But the parents need to know it's going to be okay. It'll be okay. We'll all take care of each other. So those connections with parents too.
Yeah, I think that part of it too is, as parents, nobody feels like they're doing anything well now.
Right.
Especially, folks that are still working.
Right.
But their kids are home. So you don't feel like you're a great parent. You don't feel like you're certainly not a great teacher. And then you don't feel like you're giving 100% to work. So everybody feels like less.
Right. And it's just being pulled in so many different ways. And, parents that have multiple children at home, and where teachers are, they're in multiple teachers' classrooms. And so this teacher wants to do this with them and this teacher wants to do this with them, which is fantastic. But when you have multiple children, that also is like a scheduling thing. And okay, I've got to help you get on here and I've got to help you get on here. And oh, wait, now it's your turn. That part. And if there's only one computer or if there's no technology, I know that a lot of districts are helping out with that, of finding ways to help people that don't have that technology. But again, it's just people working together to try to solve all of these issues. So I know I had one parent the other day just post, parents post things on Facebook all the time. And one posted, she has a child in high school, and that child in high school has double booked, their teachers have double booked their meetings. So they're not communicating. So this child was supposed to have a Zoom meeting with the math teacher, but also a Zoom meeting with the English teacher at the same time. And so I think that's hard too, when you get into where you have multiple teachers. I think that's something that has to be looked at too, is how do you schedule that? Do you have a certain schedule that you follow as a district as to what your office hours are or what your times are? Or do you follow the same schedule you had at school? Or, I hadn't thought about that. Just being elementary, it's not something that's on my radar. But when the parent posted that, I went, oh yeah, never even thought. That's a whole nother thing to think about, so I think that's just things come up as they come up, and we just have to figure it all out and be patient as we do.
Part of it for me is just the expectations, right?
Right.
I mean, I feel like we have to have different expectations in terms of what we think is appropriate or doable now, because the example you just said, the idea of having this assumption that you still need, your 60-minute or math class every day. Like, no, maybe no. Maybe
right.
You need that.
I could tell you as an elementary, no. We are doing our things in 15-minute and 30-minute chunks. And it's just, and that's pushing it on some things. So, these kids that I have, they are used to an hour reading workshop every day at school. It's just not happening here. Right now, that's not happening. Maybe we can work up to that, being my knowledge that I have with reading workshop. But a parent that doesn't have that knowledge, it shouldn't be an expectation, because it's just different at home. The kids are not with their teachers. And I tell teachers that all the time. They are very different with their parents than they are with their teachers. So, and even me, like my daughter, she tells me all the time, you don't know anything, Mom, when we're talking about reading and writing. And I just said, I'm like, well, I do. I actually do know some things about reading and writing. And she says, but you're not, her teacher, you're not my teacher. And so you don't do it the same way. And just, it's hard because even though I do know a couple things about reading and writing, she doesn't see it that way because I'm not her teacher. And it's that way for all parents. So I think we just have to give each other grace, and we have to give our kids grace too.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Not only do we not all have the expertise, but that idea that not everybody has access to the technology. This one really, this one gets to me, because this concept that you and I are very lucky because we both have internet access, and a lot of schools and districts do. But I was looking at a statistic just the other day that 41% of school administrators don't think that their districts can provide online learning for their students. 41%. Wow. So what happens to those kids that are not going to be able to access their teacher or access the curriculum? What happens to those kids? Exactly.
And that's where my heart is the heaviest, is for those kids, and those kids that are in homes that are not safe, where school is their safe place. I think about those kids constantly, and what can we do for them to connect with them, to keep them safe, to make them feel safer. And how can we do it if we don't have the technology? And I don't have an answer to that. I know there are people out there that are doing anything they can to try to work that out. But that's a 41% is huge. And then there's also districts that do have the technology, but they block a lot of things. And
Mhm.
so they like YouTube. Well, right now everything is on YouTube. I understand like when you're in school where YouTube might be blocked because you want to keep your kids from not seeing certain things. But right now, so much of this online learning is through YouTube. And so, what are we doing there, when we're blocking sites as a district? I see you're trying to keep your kids safe from all of that, but at the same time, you're also blocking them from a lot of learning that's happening out there. So it's hard. It's hard.
It's hard, but it's ever changing too, right? I
Yes.
feel like last week everybody was in a different place. This
Oh,
week,
for sure.
different again. And next week will bring something different
Mhm.
again.
And
Um,
it's every minute, it's every hour, something's always changing. And I went to Italy. I was in Italy in February, and when I got home from Italy, 2 days later, they closed all the northern towns that I was in. So, and they went to virtual learning online, and so I've been watching this, knowing that it was coming our way. I've been watching in South Korea, I've been watching in China, and I've been watching in Italy. Prior to this, my mom happens to be a consultant, and she travels all around, and she's been to South Korea. So all her schools, like she's the one that got me kind of paying attention to it, because it was like all the schools that she has worked with were now into online learning, and this was way ahead of where we are now. And so I had been paying attention and going, yeah, it's coming our way. It's coming, and no one believed it. Everyone was, it's just a virus, it's just a virus. And but just watching other countries and kind of where they are um, in their journey as well. I've been paying attention to that and kind of trying to figure out, what is going to happen here. Um, and everyone's handling it differently. Every country is trying to do what they can as well. So I don't know. There's no answers. Everything's changing minute by minute, day by day, and we just have to adapt and change with it. That's just the way it is right now.
so Whitney, how are you just giving yourself some time to adjust to all of this? Because it sounds like you've got quite a routine you've set up at home for your daughter. And it sounds like it's a great idea to try to build that structure into it. But are you also building in some time for yourself?
So I stop, like, my work that I'm doing. I stop it at 3 when the kids stop. So I become mom at 3. Um, so that I do laundry, then I do anything the mom does. That's when I stop at 3. So I don't usually answer emails after 3. I don't usually, we're working on a puzzle right now. So we'll do that in the evenings or watch TV. Um, I try to go to bed at a decent time. I've always gotten up early and worked out. That's just been my thing. I will say right now, my workouts, because they're virtual, are not at 4 a.m. like normal. They're a little later now. But I still make that time for me. I did that anyway. So I'm trying to keep kind of my own routines as well, my me time and my mom time things as well. And I think that parents need to, set their times where they are not working. A friend of mine texted this morning. She wasn't answering text messages last night. And she answered them this morning, and she said, sorry, I didn't answer the messages. I'm turning my phone off at 8 every night. No text messages, no email after 6. So she's setting her own things too. And I think it's important that we do that. We need to turn it off. And I that goes for saying, even when we're all at work, we need to turn it off at a certain time, because I think we can all turn into working 24/7 if we allow ourselves to.
That's such a great point. It's this concept of setting boundaries,
Yeah.
Whitney, right? I think several of us were falling into this trap because we were on the computer all day, it just is easy, and we're at home.
Right.
So the
Right.
environment's exactly the same. That possibility of work bleeding into your personal life is super, super high in this
Oh,
environment.
yes. So easy.
So one of the
So,
things one of my colleagues mentioned was doing something similar to what you said. She just turns off her computer and her messages at a certain point, and she says, "I make a point to pick up a physical book."
mhm.
Physical book, because she was so much in the online world in the during the day, that she just needs to be
Absolutely.
doing something that is more physical, whether it's walking outside or just actually picking up a book.
Mhm. Yeah, I always, even before all of this, I have an hour in my day. And sometimes I do get that full hour, not usually, but I do block out an hour in my day for reading. Um, and, I try to give it the full hour, but that doesn't always happen. Lately, it's been like 15 minutes, honestly, because I have so many other things going on, but it is on my schedule. So again, it's that making the time to do it.
Well, I like the idea that you have a schedule, but you're giving yourself some leeway in terms of what happens in those pockets of time. Because I think when people think about routines, they assume you got to do the same thing every day.
Right. And no, it shouldn't be because you won't stick to it. Like most people won't stick to it. But if you have your start times, your finish times, those things we can stick to, but what we do in between might change.
That is such a great tip. Whitney, first of all, I haven't heard your daughter at all in the background. Is she okay?
Yeah, she's in the other room. They all are doing their school thing right now. They have like a menu from school that they need to be working on. So I put them all on that for while we're working, right, like while we're talking right now. So they're in the room with the door closed. I'm in the office with the door closed. They know that I'm on this call, so they're leaving me alone. One of them was on a Zoom meeting with her class just a minute ago, though, so I don't know if you could hear that in the background because I thought it was kind of loud. But now that's over because I don't hear it anymore. So they're all in the room now, doing who knows what. They should be working, but I don't know. They could be doing other things in there. I don't hear them, so I'm assuming they're working.
So, Whitney, I wondered, you're spending a lot of time with your daughter these days. Um, how has your relationship with her changed with all of this extra time?
I don't like for me, I don't think it's really changed that much. One, she's an only child for the most part because our son is grown and out of the house. So she's basically an only child. So she gets a lot of attention anyway. Um, she actually loves alone time. Um, she strives, like she will tell me sometimes when she needs alone time. She's just one of those that she knows she's a very social person, but she also knows when she just needs some time to herself. um, and she'll go and isolate herself for that alone time. So I don't in my household that hasn't changed a whole lot just because she's used to getting a lot of attention. Um, so it's fine. She doesn't like it when I try to teach her anything, that part. But it was like that anyway. Whenever we would try to do some homework or anything, it just, yeah, it's she and I have never been good in that relationship. She loves it when I read to her, which is awesome. But when it comes to anything else, it's she doesn't want my help. And I have to be honest, I'm not a math teacher, so she's not getting a strong math education right now. I'm leaving it up to whatever the school is sending for that. So I feel I know what parents that are not educators feel like because that's kind of how I feel with math. So,
Now, has your relationship with other teachers changed at all or evolved at all with all of this?
I don't think so. I've always been in close contact with teachers. So I haven't, I still talk with them, text with them, and I don't think that's changed a whole lot. I've reached out to some of them saying, "Hey, I miss you." The ones that are not my daughter's teacher that I'm friends with, "Hey, I miss you. How's it going? Just checking in on you." They're all so positive. They're like, "Hey, trying to figure all of this out, but we've got it." And so I can't say for me those things have changed a whole lot. I've offered them wine. But other than that, nothing. Yeah, I can't really say anything has changed a whole lot there, just because I just don't get to see them all the time, and that part's hard. Like, because I miss seeing them, I miss talking with them, I miss being in their classrooms and talking with their kids, and I miss all that, and I know they do too.
Yeah, I think what's funny about how all of this is playing out, and finding that I rely less on text messages. Now I actually want to video chat people and see
Right.
people. All of these things you took for granted, just walking down the hall, right? And
Yes.
seeing people. Now it's like, no, I want to FaceTime you because I want to see your face.
Now I have a group of educators that we're a book club, but we're all in the field of education. And so we did our first Zoom meeting the other morning, because we have our group text, which we text all the time, but it was like, no, we need to see each other. And it was so fun because they were all new to Zoom. So that was fun to get on and have us all talk. And we all had our mugs, and because we did like a coffee morning. And so we all had our mugs, and we just talked, and we talked for about an hour, just talked face to face and laughed. And we said, we need to do this more often, just because we need to see each other.
Yeah, I think in some ways people are connecting in different ways now. We're being forced to. I mean,
Right.
My mother set up a Facebook page. She's 82. She set up a Facebook page
Yeah.
and was messaging me the other day. And I just thought, I think you have to count your blessings for the good things that happen
For
along
sure.
the way. So now I have
For
a new
sure.
way to connect with my mother.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. I hope we're not. Honestly, I hope that we're not assessing. I hope that we are not concerned about taking grades. Yeah, because how can we? Assessment is one thing when it's observational and you just kind of chat with your student. That informal assessment, I think that's just ongoing. And you get that through conversation. Just how's it going? Where do I want to take you next with this? That's one thing. And I feel like I'm doing that all the time with the kids that I'm working with right now. They went on that nature walk today. They came back. I took a look at what they put in their notebook, asked some questions. And I'm just thinking, okay, where can what can I have them do to extend on that? I think that's the informal assessment type things that we need to be doing now. It's not formal assessment. I really hope no one is out there taking grades right now. And there might be, and maybe maybe that's an unpopular opinion of mine, but grades are just not going to be, there's no way they can be accurate. There's no way that they can be true and valid, because we're not with them. We're not helping them along the way. We're teaching them, but then we don't know what they're doing once they leave us. Whereas in the classroom, we're able to check up on them constantly. And now, this is honestly what they're doing. When they're at home, they don't have that constant checkup. Even if we're doing online learning constantly with our kids, where we're working with them and doing lessons with them from 9 to 11 and then from 1 to 3 or whatever, it's still not the same. They don't have you with them all the time. So I really hope that people are not out there taking grades. I just don't see that type of assessment right now is something that we need to be concerned about.
I think it's such a great point, Whitney. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Not everybody has the same level of access.
Right.
Same level of access to the teacher, to technology. You don't know how many other kids are in that home. Right.
And if we're thinking of equity, it's just not there. It's not there. And some kids are in homes with 0 books. And so if there's 0 books and then they don't have the technology to access online books, how can we? I just don't see how we can be worried and concerned about grading right now. What we need to be worried and concerned about is that social and emotional learning, and just making sure these kids are okay, and that going outside and doing a nature walk, that is a great way to educate your kids, and just getting out there and seeing what our world has to offer in an isolated way. That's what we need to be doing, not grading and not writing these long responses and getting them to hate school. That's not what we want right now.
That's Whitney La Rocca, co-author of Patterns of Power. Check out her Twitter at Whitney_La Rocca, LaRocca, and at WhitneyLaRocca.com, as well as on the Stenhouse site and the Patterns of Power Facebook community. We've been thinking a lot about what's happening with kids and teachers, and we're hoping you'll share what's happening in your life with us. Email us at marketing@stenhouse.com or visit our Facebook page, and take good care of yourself.